Hello, welcome to the Square Base Show with me, your host, Rob, and Mr. Val Helmelfinger. Don't call it a comeback, but here we are to talk about the hot news and reviews for the old world this week. Welcome to the Square Base Show.
Woo! Welcome, Rob. You welcome. You welcome
comeback
to the Square Base Show. We're back.
It's the comeback. It's the comeback.
What a quarter. Bad quarter.
Yes.
Bad quarter, but good quarter. But new quarter.
New quarter. It's been a rough quarter.
It's been one.
It's been one. So hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Today's show, we're going to be just catching up with a bunch of stuff that we missed. We're going to look at the new dwarf model. We're going to talk about the restrictive format that Warhammer themselves are enforcing at their own events.
They're changing the game, Rob. They're changing the game.
They're changing it's a paradigm shift. And then we're also going to be discussing the Square-Based Open. And this is the first of several videos you're going to see over the next few days. Square-Based is actually going to be flooded with videos this week. It's going to be hot. But it's good to be back. We've both had a lot happening, so it's nice to be here. And then you'll see in the future video we're also going to be recording today, but we'll come out at a separate time. It's also an auspicious time for us. But Val, catch me up. How have you been? What have you been up to?
Well, just been dealing from a little minor burglary. Little minor burglary.
Rough quarter.
Actually, it honestly wasn't so bad, except the worst part of it was that in the process of burgling me, they literally broke a wall down in my shed, and now all my shed stuff's in my inside house part, which has turned my world into chaos, Rob. Chaos!
It's unnecessary.
But I have been learning various carpentry skills. I've reinstalled an HRV unit, which is for air filtration here in La Casita.
Nice.
So I will have less stale air soon. I have one more hole to drill. I'm also building out a lovely little 3D printing shelf area. Got a proper activated charcoal filter, by the way, which I'm going to share with you because I think it would be very useful for you. So things will be better. Things will be much better here. But for the time being, it's all upside down and just sort of mixed together and swirled. What about you? How are you? What's going on with you?
Really good. So I should have taken a picture actually. So past couple of weeks, the major thing and the gun to my head at the moment is our Riverlands event, which we're going to talk about in more detail next week. But I have a sold out Old World event at the TSN Arena this weekend. Very exciting, and I'm going to do a list review video in the next couple of days before the event, and I'm also going to do an event recap video. So I'm really looking forward to that, and fingers crossed. I could defeat the ADHD devil. I'm going to record at least 5 games over the course of the weekend. I'm going to stick those up on Patreon. So I'm looking forward to that. And also, like, early on, if I can just kind of talk about what I do when I do those things as well. So I have one of the tables now fully set up to record, like, incredible player audio and then, like, a bunch of different cameras so you get a bunch of different angles. Great. Right. But oftentimes when I've had like some of these sold out Old World events the past few months, like because we're still not even fully a year into the game, I've looked at the crowd and I've thought, I don't feel comfortable putting them in that position. And then, as a couple of you will know, I did eventually feel like comfortable putting a couple of people in the position, and then rules were played pretty wrong. And so then I felt like I was putting the players in a vulnerable position. So I'm really excited to do it, and I feel like it's exactly what I should be doing. Sold out event, everyone's there to win. It's a great time. Everyone's having a fun time. Pick out, from 12 matches around, pick out the best one, stick it on the table, everyone have a good time. But, buddy, it just, do you know what I mean? It feels a bit like, so it feels a little bit uncomfy, but I'm really hoping to nail it this week. And then, the gun to my head is Rivers. So next weekend, we have our first Riverland format event where there's just a giant river across the table. And I don't know if anyone who plays Old World knows this, but a table is actually 6 foot long. And I think I maybe made a small mistake when I decided I was going to print 12 times 6 feet of river.
Well, it's a thought that did occur to me.
However, we're nailing it. So we've designed them ourselves. So they're like Tom, who works with me, he's designed them. We got them as files.
Who you work for?
Yeah. I've always felt the best way to keep yourself like really on the level is just assume you work for everyone. I also work for you, Val. I also work for the people watching this video. I work for the Twitch chat. I've got a lot of bosses, and it's a tough day.
Everyone works for Tom. They just don't know it.
Yeah, tough quarter. It's
a tough quarter.
Anyway, so yeah, we've designed some rivers, and the maps I'm making tomorrow. And then we'll have them up. So next week we'll be able to discuss the format. I'll be able to show you the maps. The maps will be available for people. We're going to sell the rivers, but if people don't ever want to engage with it, you can make your own fucking river. It's fine. But whatever. But yeah, it's 96.
Put on the STLs. Make your own fucking river.
It's 96 bits of river, which also means next week I'm also painting 12 rivers. I should also point that out.
We're well aware of what the ramifications of 68 feet of river is. It's a lot of river. Do you have any quaint bridges?
Oh yeah, it is. Wait, is it 72 feet of river?
72 feet of, whatever 6 times 12 is.
That's a lot of river. My dry brushing arm's going to be exhausted. Yeah. Thankfully, I've been working out for years.
Yeah, you're right. 72 feet of river. Sorry. Sold you 4 feet short there. I mean, you could have bisected the table. That might have avoided some of it, but maybe ruined sort of the general mise en scène that you were going for.
Yeah. There's actually an interesting bit where we have also created a like a small piece because because obviously you've got printer beds. Long story. Printer beds. The width of the table, it breaks down into 8 pieces, but then when you take like 4 of those pieces and try to turn them so that they are the width of the table, the other side of the table, they don't fit. So now we've also created another little bit, and quite cutely, that's for a specific mission that we're doing. It's got like a little hand with a sword in it. A little hand with a sword in it. A little
lovely.
Ladder de Breton.
Well, that's obviously you put it in the middle rather than at the end. Yeah, what I immediately would have done. That's a delight. But I did ask you, do you have a quaint bridge?
No.
Any quaint bridges?
What I'm thinking of doing is
that's for the expansion pack.
Yeah, there's the expansion pack. Well, it's kind of interesting because we also announced Squarebase XL, which I think
did we have?
Have we talked about that? I don't know if we talked about it online, but it's 3,000 points.
All I asked was that you'd call me when you're actually building the format. That's all I asked.
I haven't done that yet.
Squarebase XL. Although I did brand it Squarebase XL, so that's good.
Yeah. So January.
I name things. That's basically what I do. I name things.
It's really valuable. You're like the Don Draper of the old world.
That's right. I don't think about
Peggy,
you at all. Peggy, you're a bitch. I have a drinking problem.
Hashtag Square-based. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing, getting the rivers sorted. And yeah.
You know what's interesting, Rob? I'm never nostalgic for Mad Men. I feel like Mad Men was like a show that I watched all the way through, and then it was done. I put it in a box, and like that's the first time I've thought of it probably in years.
In Mad Men?
Of Mad Men, yeah.
I think it's the only show that ever made me want to smoke.
Oh, really? Wonder why.
They smoke a lot.
Tobacco companies realizing they could advertise again by just doing period dramas. Stroke of genius. These guys are fucking. You think you got them on the ropes, man? And then they're like, what if we said it in the 1930s? Like.
Anywho, so yeah, I've there's been lots of that going on, and I'm really excited. I've got like 2 or 3 Old World events in the next 4 weeks or something like that. So loads of content, loads of like deep dives. Really looking forward to it. Loads of different formats. So actually, quite a lot happening, but a lot of it is in the kind of organizational and kind of like setup sphere. You know, like you don't have a lot of time to paint any more minis when you're painting 72 feet of river.
You sold yourself out of the river, Rob, and you're just going to have to swim your way to the end.
Yeah. But talking of minis, actually, we should just take a moment. One of the things that was announced, or at least showcased, was the release of our man, Burlock Daminson. So this new mini, we're in an interesting space now where we don't have to necessarily wait for one of the new Arcane journals or any of the other rumored stuff to emerge to get some minis, because obviously we've got a couple of Arcane journals now with minis missing from them. So that's pretty exciting that occasionally, just randomly on a Thursday, you just be like, dwarf? Interested in a dwarf?
What do you think about this little guy?
Yeah.
Also, it's also kind of funny that like there are basically 2 to 3 new models for each of these releases. And they released one of them for each of them. So they just leaving some meat on the bone there so they can go back for a little morsel whenever they need to. Was Burlock the one that they said was gorgeous? There was one that they were like, oh, you got to wait, mate. It's going to be gorgeous. It's a beautiful model.
Beautiful model.
Actually, no, I think that was the lady from that's not Galrak in the
Chainmaker. Yeah, the Chainmaker. Freydal. Who we know all of the lore about. Go watch our lore video.
Lore video. So hot right now.
So hot right now. So
I don't know how we must, given what was going on. It's amazing we mustered up that much a transcendent lore video like that.
What, during the tough quarter?
It was during the tough quarter, yeah. So also we got approximately 25% of the rules right for our vampire counts deep dive. Just so you know, there's a very detailed errors and omissions. Shit.
Loving that.
Anyway, new quarter, guys. New quarter.
So what do you think of the mini?
I mean, he's a guy standing, pointing with his gun, which I enjoy. He's got a very what is the German World War I helmet called? A pickle helm? I think
I think it's similar to pickleball.
Different vibe. But it's interesting that he's got that Reichs, like that German look with that helmet. I love his ocular, his
device.
His device. I think he's really cool, actually. Maybe I would have gone with a brighter beard choice, but he's got lots of gunpowder and stuff on him, so maybe he's got a white beard that's just covered in black powder.
He's quite a like a high fantasy version of what I think of the Dwarden in that time. To be honest, like it feels a little like more towards the AOS spectrum when it comes to the design. But yeah, I really like him. I think he's cool.
His hammer's giving me Tech Priest vibes, but that's what he is, though. He's a technologically advanced little dwarfy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he looks fantastic. I think a lot of people are really happy and excited about him as well, and fun to use in a game. So I think this is good, but it also is really exciting for us as Old World players and fans, because it does feel over the next few months randomly we're going to just get, oh, by the way, the Chainmaker. You're like, whoa! So that's fun, because obviously we know there's going to be a delay on publications, because publications, although generally Games Workshop is very quiet. What
do we know?
No, sorry, we don't know that there's a delay, but the schedule was not really. Okay, I would posit, as we covered in another video, the Old World has got an absolutely frothy, massive fan base. That's what I like to call you, people watching at home, the frothy. Massive fan base. Foaming. But those people foaming right now don't really have much to sink their teeth into. And I guess it's similar to 40K. Games Workshop announced that, they're not going to do any more 40K until Christmas. So they've basically been on a 3-month no 40K. Which is a long time for 40K fans who have, Games Workshop got addicted to the FOMO almost weekly release. And we're nearly a year in, don't have all the Arcane journals, obviously. And I know that would be, in your brain, that would be like, whoa, that's way too fast. But people are frothy. That's what I'm trying to get at. The thing people are like, what's next, boss? What's next? Give me the next thing. I'm waiting for Empire. Give me them feelings. So having stuff like this a little bit more trickled out, I think helps keep the froth going.
I think because maybe we still have a few fans in the studio. Maybe we still got a few plants monitoring the Squarebase channel. Just would love to say, you guys got to advocate for more Warhammer community time, a couple more slots, because it was over 2 months between articles posted online, and they really wouldn't need to do much. Like a month, like I think we were saying, like every 2 weeks would be great, but maybe that's too much. How about bi-monthly, or like fortnightly, as the Brits say. I guess that is every 2 weeks. But nonetheless, like, yeah, something to just keep the pulse going. But I think that's the nature of SDS. They get their marketing slots on Warcom, and that's all that they do. One thing would be interesting is to go check out because Old World has its own Facebook feed, and I wonder if that's actually more active.
I think they shut that. They might not shut that down. But one of the things I will say is that I think it's because the project was never intended to be the scale it has. We know that that's true. We know that they've expanded the scope of the project, and so I think it's basically they're dealing with, I would say, heresy levels of frothiness, and so next year after, I would hope to see more regular releases. Truth be told, especially as they have the opportunity now. Don't shout at me, old Hammer people, but there's the opportunity to really start to listen. I love the Goblin Hewer as much as the next man, but I reckon you could do a new sculpt. Just
whoa! Take your foot off the gas, Robert. New sculpts? There's one. We got one right there. Boom.
Boom.
He's probably also like a foot taller than all the other dwarves. New sculpts will be interesting. I think we'll see probably new sculpts in whatever our first new faction is.
Yeah.
When they release a net new faction. That I will be very, very, very curious to see what actually does finally get released. We, of course, believe strongly that it'll be Cathay.
We do. We strongly believe.
And what's interesting too is trying to guess. Like I was looking forward to maybe this is I was looking forward to like what happens, because it feels very much like they'll probably be through all of the core factions by summer-ish, right? And summer is usually their big like new release period. So what happens after that? Like Old World's kind of off a cliff. We're definitely like I think we know there's gonna be lots of fun, interesting, newish content coming at us in the sort of that first 6 months of the new year. We got Beastmen, Wood Elves, High Elves, and Empire to go. After that, though, big old black void of mystery, and how supported the game is, how soon that shift to 2.0 happens. That's all sort of open to like, who knows what will happen. I don't know. It's exciting to see, and I hope it doesn't just become a big void. I hope they keep the pressure on even after the core armies are released. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
The problem is they're not a company who need money. Like, as insane as that is to say, they're like they are an old grand ship, and they're just like sailing, and they're like, we can go forever if we want. Okay, so the new mini's out, but as well as the new mini is a paradigm shift in rules. A paradigm. Okay, so what are we talking about? So in February, and the timing is suspicious.
Perhaps auspicious.
Yeah, exactly. The timing is suspicious in February because, as we have for a long time been talking about, there is some kind of book, PDF, or rules coming out, which we've heard many a rumor about, that are going to like create the tournament format for Old World, including some additional restrictions. Then this is coming officially out of Games Workshop. And as of yet, we haven't heard anything through official channels, only unofficial channels.
A lot of murmurs.
Yeah.
Some murmuring.
Yeah. Well, actually just direct conversations with people. But like, but murmurs, all right, we'll do murmurs. And then in those murmurings, some things have been suggested. Now, the event, so Games Workshop at Warhammer World are hosting an Old World event in February. And I'm sure you've already seen people talk about this, but they have some very specific army restrictions which seem to exactly relate to the murmurings. So if we just take a moment to kind of look at them. So 2,000 points. all good, fill your boots. But the army restrictions for this official Warhammer World event are: you may not spend more than 25% of your army's total value on a single character. Your army may include any number. Oh, by the way, note these limitations do not apply to named characters. Your army may include any number of level 1 and 2 wizards with the above restrictions. It says within the above restrictions, but they're also then below. So that's copied from a book. Okay,
but no. But that's applying the 25% of your army's total value on a single character. Right. So that's what they're referring to. But it's also, I want to see a challenge where you make a 500 plus point level 2 wizard. Let's go. But
may only include, you can only have one level 3 wizard per 1,000 points. So 2 level 3s total in an army. And then 1 level 4 wizard per 2,000 points. Okay. Which is the big story. So this is the much rumored army restrictions of the future. So my first question, Mr. Valhelfvinker, and also everyone who's watching this video, and also everyone in the chat, what do you think of these restrictions? Are they a light touch or are they too heavy-handed?
This is quite the light touch. I think the level 4 spam was sort of a general concern.
Disgusting.
For some at times, as was, well, your army may include any number of level 1 and 2 wizards, so you can still bring an F ton of casters if you wish. But just how the game works, where a level 4 caster has a pretty big dispel advantage, and you can dispel infinite times, means that if you're not bringing a level 4 wizard, it's kind of hard to compete in the magic element of the game. So people obviously wanted to bring lots of them. Now, that being said, in many armies, you kind of have your opportunity to have 0 to 1. You basically have the opportunity to either take 2 level 4s or a level 4 and a Lord level character, or 2 Lord level characters, right? So in a lot of cases, armies do feel somewhat locked to 1 level 4 anyway. However, there are other armies that are not really restrained at all in this facet, like Orcs and Goblins are a good example of that. So yeah, I think this to me feels a little bit more of an aesthetically driven thing, right? It's not necessarily, it's sort of like when we came out with the original rule of 3 and 6, which is interesting. We'll get there in a second, but that was less about necessarily balance and more about making sure that, or trying to push armies in a direction that would look a little bit more like what we would imagine a fantasy army to be. And that's what this is doing. It's just sort of taking the extreme skew of all the way into Magic kind of off the table. The 25% of your army's total value on a single character probably would have been significantly more impactful, even if it was 20%.
Yes.
So, what would that drop you down to? 400 points?
400 points.
Yeah. Now that would have had a real impact. This is a restriction of 500 points. And now, maybe there's a couple juiced up Chaos Lords maybe on dragons. There's not a ton of stuff that's really even going to be touched by this. Am I crazy?
Not a lot of. No, I agree with you. I think this is a little bit light touch. Truth be told, I would like to have seen it be 20%, and I think that would have been quite interesting. We've talked a lot about the effectiveness of obviously those big single characters, and it's because it's like a multitude of stacks on top of each other. You're getting more wounds, you're getting more toughness, you're getting better survivability. Being able to give a unit a 3-up armor save, for example, when they've only got 3 wounds versus when they have 7 wounds or 8 wounds or whatever it might be, obviously that's just better. So you're spending your points more efficiently and more effectively in those stages. What's nice is, in my opinion, is at least it's an understanding and the concept of something. And and I've said this multiple times about the old world. I know after this we're going to be talking about the S-Bot. And so I think from there we can see a clear indication of why this maybe wouldn't be super, super impactful in some cases. But that restriction down should have been a little bit more aggressive. But what's great is a studio, SDS specifically, who aren't really geared towards this kind of back and forth with a player base, are making strides to have a back and forth with the player base. So actually, like, maybe missed the mark or wasn't as effective maybe as we could have wanted it to be. I think that the fact that Games Workshop are at least having this conversation with us, and sure, I know what you're all about to say, because I think this is a really important thing to remember, because I try and remind myself of it as well, is Games Workshop should be a much more active and it should be a more impactful and more thorough game developer in their systems and with their games. And why don't they, when they sell these at such an incredibly high premium? And I super agree with you. So I do sound very cuck to be like, oh, at least they're listening. Like, I get it. Like, I super get that. Like, and you're absolutely right. Whoever is about to say that, like, feel free to, like, you know, burn me in the comments. But, like, you know, softly. These are normally pretty old dudes. Most of them are very internet illiterate. So, like, you know, this
easy on JTY.
I'm not talking about him specifically. I'm talking about that department, right?
I think so. There is something to be said, though, that like in the world of AOS and 40K, where they have gotten more heavily into
a back and forth.
Also just that more heavily proactive game balancers, revising the game, that can be tough for some people to keep up with. So those people who are on the bleeding edge of it and who are like, there was a time where like any morsel of new rules that came out for 40K, any like tiny errata or adjustment, I was all over. I loved it. I craved it. But for some people, it's a genuine turnoff. And I think that certainly like folks out there in Squarebase land don't necessarily want that degree of tuning. And to that, what I would say is that if you release a game that's not functioning correctly, that your problem isn't necessarily in the ongoing upkeep of it, it's in the creation of it, right? Like if you need to be constantly like making massive adjustments and rules changes, it's a quality control thing before it even gets released.
Yeah.
So while I appreciate that, like there is some, reaction to things not working the way they intended. And by the way, this is a game, Warhammer the Old World's already been FAQ'd 3 or 4 times, I want to say. So like they are active in dealing with that, and like light years ahead of where things left off with Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition. Like they just didn't errata it for the last 2 or 3 years, right? So like that's all well and good. It's just sort of in the creation phase, more effort needs to be made up front, because fundamentally, like Old World has some stuff that just straight up don't work, like that or is very confusing. And it's a game right now played on vibes, a lot of vibes. And what's amazing is, and it's a credit, I think, to both the game and the community, that it does work as well as it does. And that sounds so crazy to say. Like, I feel like such a shill whenever I say that out loud, but I say it to myself too, and to like people, not just on a show on YouTube, like that it really does play. Like Old World does work, and but it could have so many quality of life improvements, and I'm just glad that they are addressing them. Something that I'm curious to see is, like you were saying, like those layered elements on characters and like how things can be super tough, and like basically there's a lot of perhaps intended, perhaps unintended consequences. JTY in that one roundtable, I think when Chaos came out, mentioned, just bring more flagellants and you can take care of all the dragons you want. Just bring more cannons. I don't know if he was being facetious or not, but there's also some degree of at least like, okay, well, that was an intention. The intention was that, this is a monster heavy edition, that if you put a lot of effort into these like big, centerpiece models and these big wicked characters, that, they are very good. Maybe overshot the mark a little bit, JTY, but, like that is also cool. We have been getting insight to intent, and we've been getting a little insight to intent through those FAQs. So sometimes the game's not exactly the way you want it, but that is the way that they wanted to make it. And I do believe that, designers are designers. Like we're playing their game, right? So if that's the way it's supposed to play, that's the way it's supposed to play.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And and as I've said multiple times, in kind of reference with what I said earlier about recording games, I'm effectively a professional sportscaster when it comes to AOS, and I have been a professional, effective sportscaster for 40K as well, both professionally for Games Workshop and also independently for quite a lot of years. So my skills and ability to be in rooms and tables and be like, these people are playing at a level where recording their games would be of benefit to them and the community. I haven't necessarily got there really with a lot of the old world stuff at the moment, or at least the attendees of my events. But that's not meant to be disrespectful. That's meant to be like understanding, and therefore, I think a lot of people out there have still not played all the games they need to play, and they haven't necessarily ground it out. And there's not necessarily an incredibly high skill ceiling right now. And that's fine. Let's just be softly. Let's paint our models. Let's get our stuff on the table. Let's enjoy our games. Because also rumored is the kind of 2.0 version of Old World, maybe that's being brought forward a little bit earlier. So not a 3-year cycle. And please, when I say that, don't get all panicky and fluttery. Don't forget that basically you can take an 8th edition copy of a fucking unit and basically put it in Old World and it's identical. So we're not talking about a ground up rewrite. We're talking about maybe there's a version where they write skirmishes better in the future.
Yes.
And that's maybe sooner rather than later. And this is a good nod to that. If that does end up being a publication that comes out soon, that's a good nod to that. And that is actually, as much as it makes me sound like a shill, it's actually super exciting because as a Warhammer Fantasy Battle fan and now an Old World fan, having the actual company be like, are you motherfuckers playing games? Well,
what? Really? Really?
Oh, well, then here's some feedback. And you're like, fantastic.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm pretty stoked about that, to be honest. Pretty stoked.
Something that was all over Old World, and the Fingerprints of Passion project are all over Old World, right? That this is something that people who, clearly to bring fantasy back from the dead required some people to be like, no, we're doing this. Someone had to bang the table or whatever. Clearly the people who are doing putting this together are doing it from a place of passion first. And that I think shows in the I don't know, the care that they're showing in supporting it. So getting back to these restrictions, one thing too that has existed at Warhammer World, since shortly after we announced our square-based format, the square-based standard, which was a rule of 3/6 for core, is that they had instituted a rule of 3 as well at their events. I don't know if you ever picked up on this, but this doesn't have a rule of 3. This is the Throne of Skulls rules. So Throne of Skulls, from what I understand, is sort of like an all-rounder event. It's supposed to be more of a...
As a Throne of Skulls winner, then,
was the Throne of Skulls what you brought the Thunder Lizard to?
No, that was a different event, South Coast GT. But as a Throne of Skulls winner, which is when whoever gets gold, is the best at the event in gaming, sports, and hobby. Again, as a Throne of Skulls winner.
Very bast.
Yeah, they're very bast.
What kind of an appliance do they get?
No appliance. It's embarrassing. Just a trophy.
Just a trophy? Come on, up your game, Games Workshop.
I'd also like to say that my club mates came second and third. So
okay, cool.
It was a clean sweep. It was a clean sweep in the family.
So I love I love to see something like that where the overall and at Squarebase Open Toronto, I've followed the lead of all the TSN events. Our highest prize was definitely the overall prize, most vast. I think that's the sort of the vibe of Throne of Skulls, which is why they probably don't have a rule of 3 implemented, because again, Warhammer World has been using a rule of 3 for all of their previous events, as far as I do know. Their rule of 3 is a little bit different, though, than ours, in the sense that, this is leading to a broader point, which is we might be missing some pieces to this puzzle. Namely, that their rule of 3 is unless otherwise restricted, which comes with a funny thing, which is the restricted units in Old World often would allow you to bring more than 3.
Yes.
I can think of Doomseekers right off the top of my head. would be like a 0 to 4 limitation. So often you can go above their rule of 3 by using the restrictions that are present. And so I half wonder, and I'm putting a lot of stock on this, and I don't know, maybe you can throw a bucket of water on me or not. But I wonder, because they did say from the beginning, that they would be doing regular FAQs and that they would be looking at a rebalance, on a semi-regular basis. And I wonder if maybe what we'll see, this is pure speculation, I have no reason to believe this, is maybe what we'll see is a PDF of tweaked army lists. So the grand armies, so that the great. So that we see like, rather than, because like when, in 40K and AOS, we'll get the Munitorum Field Manual, we'll get the GHB, the General's Handbook, and those will often change points and sometimes other rules aside. And while I don't necessarily think we're going to see big changes to written rules, because that was an old taboo of Games Workshop. Games Workshop used to occasionally tweak points, but they didn't really change. Once a unit was written, it was written. Right? Like what was in your book was what was in your book. And they might add an FAQ or something to clarify something, but that was it. But I'd be really curious to see if we see points changes, but if we also see more like heavily restricted, like, Grand Army lists and Army of Infamy lists, where they've gone back through and added or tweaked restrictions to individual units that would go beyond their rule of 3. Because the rumors in the summer was that rule of 3 would get expanded to be like a rule of, I can't even remember what it was, but it was like, maybe it was like 4 for core and like
2 for rare or something.
2 for rare. It basically had harkened back to like an old Force Orc. I think that like, and I think 3 for special, and that's like duplicates of any of those, right? Actually, no, that's the 8th edition. 8th edition was you were limited to 2 instances
I heard
of
something
any rare.
about 2 for rare. I heard something about 2 for rare.
Yeah, like basically 8th edition used to have the percentage points, but there was a limitation on the slots of how many duplicates you could bring. So I think that was just what they were maybe bringing back. But that is all to say that I really do wonder if we see both some points and some modifications to the Grand Army lists, because that would be pretty easy if they dropped a PDF and it was just something that bolted on sort of modified army constructions in light of what we know about the game and how it sort of functions.
Yeah, the thing that's from all of that, the thing that I'm most interested in is what it will be called, because obviously, like, you have the Minotaurum Field Manual for 40K, and then the Battle Scroll for AOS. But now I'm feeling it's like a note in a bottle for Old World, like, it's like, oh, what's this, me lad? What is these points updates? I've just found it in the sea. That would be fun. I don't know what it'd be called. Let me know what you think it might be called. Anyway. And I'd be curious to know too from the folks in chat, because again, there is I don't know, there's a too much and too little of this sort of post-release tweaking. But I'd be curious, like, would once a year a change like that be welcomed, or would people turn their noses up at it? I, for one thing, I would super welcome it. And yeah, I'd be curious to see what people, because like, for example, if they change points and they change what's allowed to be taken in an army, these types of restrictions would suddenly be very different, right? It could be that like a 500 point character is suddenly quite restricted because they've juiced up the points values on certain things, right? So I don't know. In the fullness of time, I guess we'll know. We will. Also, Warhammer Rob in the chat suggests Book of Grudges, which I think is very funny. It's like, you're too good. Up points. Yeah.
That would be sweet.
Yeah, that would be very funny. All right, okay, so that's fun. I'm looking forward to that, and that's some hot news. And then in addition, you have been running the world's largest Old World event. Come on, man. Hold your head high, obviously in conjunction with some other people helping you steer the ship. But the world's largest event was an online event with 180 people.
No, not 180. I think right now, going into the regional tier, we're at 127, which is still wild. So that's bigger than the first SBOT was at the start before drops. But first, I want to say, you said I'm running. That is a fallacy, because of the aforementioned bad quarter, we had to do a go or no go on this.
It's been a bad quarter, folks.
Bad quarter. Wow. So we had to do a go or no go on this, and for whatever reason, I chose to go because I thought it was better that we do it, right? And so this thing has been really held together without a doubt. Like almost all of the work has been done by Os in Discord. Tito Man, who's another fellow Canadian. Actually, they're both Canadians, but also heavily involved with New Recruit, Tito Man. So just a great guy, both members of our Discords. And of course, Sexy Hugo. The three of those guys have literally been running this event almost without me. I popped back in this week to help with the transition from the group stage to the regional qualifiers and the finals. To the regional finals and the world finals, and immediately screwed something up. So I have to say that they have been doing just a wonderful job. And so big thank you. Everything that's good that's happened is because of them. Anything bad that's happened is because of me, for sure. So I just want to shout those guys out. That being said, though, this tournament has managed to retain their people. Just to let everyone know, we because of some learnings from last time, we went with a format that was a group stage. So we originally intended, my vision was that we would have, I guess, what would it be? It would be 8 groups of maximum 16 each. That would then break out into pods. So essentially, you would then qualify. We would take the top 16. We play 3 rounds in those groups, and then we take the top 16, 2 from each group, and they would go into the world finals, which has happened. And then everyone else would sort of stay in their regional zones. So, and that makes things a little bit easier for the people with lower stakes to get games because you're going to be playing people closer to you in time. It's not as, because this is worldwide. We got people playing from all over the world, not just Australia, UK, Europe, and the United States and Canada, but like literally everywhere. And it's really, really cool to see from that perspective, but hard to arrange games between people who are sometimes opposite sides of the world. So that's why we try and keep things sort of segmented into their regions. So yeah, we have our top 16. We then have a regional final for Europe, the UK, the eastern side of North America, and the western side of North America, and then the plucky folks in Oceania, which is not just, by the way, Australia. That's includes some folks, I think, even from Japan and other places in Asia. So yeah, really, really cool. And then those guys will play 4 rounds too, and get to sort of a winner for each region. So hopefully that gives everyone something to shoot for. And then the most committed are playing 4 rounds to hopefully get to one undefeated international champion. And that's pretty exciting. And it's cool to see it sort of working out.
And this is our top 16 cut, right? That's what we have here in our thing. So we have Phil Carl. He's playing Tomb Kings. We got Adam. Yes. I don't know, to make sure I say this correctly, because it does say Slutsky. Adam Slutsky. Okay.
Yes.
Playing Warriors of Chaos. Then you've got Corey playing Tomb Kings. You got King Pash playing Warriors of Chaos. You've got Mifisiu playing Orcs and Goblins. You've got Jay Golding playing Vampire Counts. Golding, not Goulding. Then you've got Christian playing, I think, Tomb Kings again. Yep. Then you've got Morkel playing with Wood Elves, which I really like that list. Then you got Bill, Lord Tremendous.
Lord Tremendous. Yeah, the Lord Tremendous.
Shut up.
Yeah, the Lord Tremendous. Yeah.
Okay, playing Two Kings and Kerry.
Okay,
How did you not tell me this? You know I'm a huge fan.
Rob's fangirling right now for Lord Tremendous. Lord Tremendous is a patron of yours, sir.
Shut up. Wow. If people don't know, can I drop the deep lore on everyone very quickly?
Yes, please let people know. Why Lord Tremendous means so much.
Let me go through all the people, because they've done so well. Rob, who's Jelly, is playing Tomb Kings. Andrew is playing Warriors of Chaos. Chris Thorpe is playing, I think, Wood Elves as well. And then you got Charlotte playing Tomb Kings. Wilhelm, playing Tomb Kings. You got Otwin playing Tomb Kings. And you got Ryan playing Orcs and Goblins. And yes, we need to discuss, fucking discuss the the Tomb King elephant in the room. But very quickly, if no one does know, back in the day when Warhammer Fantasy Battles existed, really you only had people taking photos of their games and putting them on YouTube. Those were the battle reports back in the day. I still say to this day, the better battle reports than all of the nonsense created nowadays, but whatever. And one of the channels was
your old millennial is showing, Rob.
Yeah, one of the bat rippers was Lord Tremendous, and he would play against his buddy Mr. Death Holy Death quite often. And then one of the things about him was whenever they as a pair, they would their dice would betray them. They would set them on fire. This was a comedy thing that they would do all the time, right? So then when Old World was destroyed, Death Holy Death, who had his Dark Elf army, burnt it, right?
That was him?
This is the deepest. This is like a pivotal moment in like Warhammer history.
It is.
People still talk about like the guy that burnt it. Like they don't even know what it was. The guy that burnt his Tau army. I'm like, what? You don't even know the deep lore, you fucking suckers, right? And then that's the deep lore. So when they burnt his army, I was like, oh, that's the thing you do on the channel. That's funny. And then when it went like worldwide, I was like, oh, never make jokes outside your circle.
Yeah, context is everything, I think. That's
incredible.
So there you go. Lord Tremendous playing in the top. So we know who Rob's pulling for.
Literally one person all the time now. Anyway, I'm too scared to say hello. I'm never going to say hello. Such a hero of mine. But the Tomb King Menace, Val. What's the scuttlebutt? How's everyone feeling? Everyone feeling a little overjuiced. We've had in the chat Morpheus saying he thinks the haggard Tomb Kings are too cheap. Feels like that's one of the major issues because it's not just mortuary cults, right? It's also just Tomb Kings. So
I mean, it's all of the above. We got mortuary cults would be the majority of them, but you have a Grand Army Tomb Kings, and you also have the memeiest army currently on the block, which would be the Royal Host being run by previous SBOT 2 winner Daenerys. And that's the gigantic brick of teleporting. It's basically his entire army in one fantasy block, one infantry block, which really keys on the ability of characters on light chariots to be able to join units. It can shoot a ton of poison. It can travel mystical pathways. Anyway, teleport around. It's got all kinds of wacky moves, and it's just a big old what they used to call, and now we're starting to see them, the Death Star. The Warriors of Chaos. I think one of the Warriors of Chaos armies also has sort of a Death Starry build involved in it. So yeah, we're starting to see the meta react. So like the meta game is starting to react, I think, to that really powerful monster meta, which has been counteracted, I think, and you see this with some of the Orcs and Goblin builds too, with but tons of shooting poison. Who would have thought, like being able to wound something a whole lot on sixes kind of helps with those big bad monsters. So we're starting to see a potentially bigger fish able to come out and eat the little fish. Tomb Kings in general being this heavily concentrated is interesting. I mean, it is half of the top 16. Some of that may be just the way that the chips fell in the different because one army you don't see here, which is to me quite surprising. Of course, Bretonia.
Do you think that's because it's played online? Like the Bretonians, like it's fair to say Pegasus Knights and the skirmishing units are very functional, but maybe they just don't translate well to like an online program.
Well, actually, Sexy Hugo has improved how skirmishers work in Warhol. That was a big improvement rollout for just before the tournament, specifically for it. So that may not necessarily be the case, but perhaps again, the first SBOT we saw, I think, was everyone playing what they kind of wanted. I think maybe we're starting to see people trying to skew more towards what's good. A truly more competitive meta. And perhaps that's, like the best players surveyed all the available factions and they put their chips in on Tomb Kings. I think that does happen a lot. So, you know, SBOT 3, whenever that does happen, the new and improved SBOT 3, that it would be curious to see if we see even more concentration in Tomb Kings, or if you see some of the top players moving away from them. Daenerys, of course, originally played Wood Elves. I have been in the process of getting him his championship prize now for 3 months. And I only say that because he also has changed what he would like 3 or 4 times. So he's having a trouble deciding, you know, what army he wants to build IRL for sure. And I think that speaks to the game too. I wouldn't necessarily look at a top 16 like this and say, you know, these are the best armies in the game per se. Tomb King certainly has got to be in that S tier. But, you know, like there are, you know, half of the other factions presented here, and I'll be super keen to see how things shake out. Also, I did force those 2 people from each, from each of the original groups. Basically, everyone who moved on play each other in the first round of the quarterfinals. That, as a result, is going to thin out those Tomb Kings a little bit. You know, there'll be only 4 potential winners in the finals as well. It's 1 point, like a one victory. There are no draws essentially to ensure that a winner happens. If you win by 1 victory point, you win. And so, yeah, Tomb Kings will get thinned out from a who can win the championship perspective. However, that Royal Host, Tech Mandor's got his hands full with that Royal Host for sure. Although maybe he has a chance with his Blood Knights and other fun shit going on there. So I don't know. It's interesting from just a high level view. And I hope everyone has been managing to have fun. And I will show my face again there someday.
Perfect. Tough quarter. Right. Tough quarter. Tough quarter. So I think that's about it for like the kind of catch up We Are Back show. That's everything that we need. We need to kind of like work our way through, which is exciting. And then straight back on with deep dives, lore videos, and everything else over the next few weeks, which we're looking forward to, as well as hopefully start to bring some content from events as well, which is what you're going to be looking. So you're going to be seeing a more ramped up schedule from the crew, which I hope you're excited about. But the best way to let us know what you want is to drop some comments about what you'd like to see us do in the future. That's the easiest kind of like direct relationship between us and you. So let us know what you want to see.
I will say that like we have been joking about a tough quarter, genuinely tough quarter. And just want to say though that like the comments in the YouTube have, I don't know how many folks on YouTube can genuinely say that to feel better, they read their YouTube comments. Like it's been, I've said this before on the show, and I just want to say it again, that everyone who does watch and engage with us it's just so really awesome. And, you know, our patrons as well. It's so great to be supported, and also just have other people out there who are just enthusiastic about something that we're enthusiastic about. And so keep sharing those comments, guys. It's not about the algorithm, honestly. It's just really great to not just be shouting into the void and see, you know, I hope we bring a lot of good positivity to the game, and it's great to see so much positivity coming back at us, because you don't get that everywhere. You often will get a lot more of the womp womps, and so that's really great. So thanks, guys. Keep it up.
Yeah, I absolutely mirror that sentiment as well. I'm super excited about making a bunch of like tactics videos in the future, which is coming soon. So thanks. Please do stay square based. Thanks. Let us know what you think about everything we talked about so far today. Thanks to Val, and see you guys soon. Look after yourself. Stay healthy. Stay well. Goodbye.